Did you want your husband dead?
No.
Did Huston talk about killing Ryan?
Several times. I instantly thought I was being set up in one of his plots that he laid out all the time through Snapchat.
In front of friends, you told Ryan Cooper that you'd shoot him in the face.
I deny ever saying that.
Then he says, remember those casings. Remember those. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Does the jury believe Ryan Cooper? A big day in Iowa as we're looking ahead to the closing arguments in the widow's words murder trial. Plus, the Georgia teen accused of killing her parents posting grieving TikToks days after the murders. So was she using social media to gain sympathy? Our psychology experts weigh in. Also this hour, accused daughter killer Travis Decker still on the loose after a false spotting in the Idaho woods. This morning, a geographic profiler joins us live to explain what needs to happen next. And Mama Donna Adelson due in court today. So could the state's witness list tip the scales of justice in the matriarch's murder trial? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We got a great show planned to get ready for the weekend. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Convicted killer Shonda Vander Ark wants a new trial. She claims that she was incompetent to stand trial, that she was in a catatonic state when she was tried for the murder of her son. Maybe. Or maybe she was guilty as sin and is now looking for any excuse to get a new trial. The disgraced former lawyer is doing life in prison after the jury found her guilty of killing her 15-year-old son, Timothy, by starving him to death. He was so malnourished and so badly dehydrated that the 5'8" teenager weighed only 69 pounds at the time of his death. On July 6th, 2022, that was when he passed away. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine how that poor innocent child must have suffered? The physical pain he must have endured, also the mental pain and the emotional pain. And his mother is the one who inflicted all of it on him. That precious angel deserved so much better. And his rotten, sorry excuse for a mom deserves to be under the jail rather than in it. Her latest legal maneuver seems to me to be another way of trying to draw attention to herself to distract from her bad behavior. Remember when she took the stand and she suddenly got sick? Remember she was being cross-examined and shown those horrific photos of her son severely malnourished, and she acted like it made her instantly sick. What about all the other days of the year leading up to Timothy's death? Was she getting sick over it then? No. She knew exactly what she was doing then, and she knew exactly what she was doing when she was at her trial. Catatonic state, hogwash. She was competent and she was capable when she took the stand. She was competent when she tried to fool the jury. And she was capable enough to put her hair in those stupid Pippi Longstocking braids every day, trying to look like a child. She looked like an abuser to me. When her hearing on this new motion happens on July 25th, I can't wait to watch. We're going to bring it to you here on Court TV. This woman, she has no shame. I tell you what, she needs to stay in prison, and she ought to be thankful that she didn't get the death penalty. That's my opening statement. You can tell I'm a little fired up this Friday morning. I'll get some water, something to cool off. Now it's time for your daily docket.
Mrs. Adelson? Hey, go. I just want to give you this.
Can I ask you, is someone blackmailing you?
No, it's always a good possibility. I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed.
When did they issue a warrant?
One moment, Miss Adelson. Please keep your comments to yourself.
In Florida, we've got Mama Donna Adelson back in court for a motions hearing ahead of her upcoming trial. Court's going to start up today at 1 p.m. Eastern. In Washington, we've got David Coots with a change of plea hearing. This guy's accused of raping his mistress and forcing her to take abortion pills. That starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And in Iowa, we've got closing arguments expected today in the widow's words murder trial for defendant Karina Cooper, but not before what's called a rebuttal from the defense. And that is our top story for you this morning. Cooper testified in her own defense on Thursday, and at times she got very emotional while telling the jury her side of the story. She claims she did not shoot and kill her husband, Ryan Cooper, back in June of 2021. Investigators say that she was found sitting on top of him as he was dead in the recliner in the living room of their home. Now, Cooper alleges that her co-defendant and her lover, Huston Danker, is the one who killed her husband.
Did you want your husband dead?
No.
Why would you say that?
Because I have a really sick sense of humor sometimes, inappropriate humor.
Did Houston talk about killing Ryan?
Several times.
Did you ever take him seriously?
No, I thought he was full of crap.
Court resumes at 10 a.m. Eastern. So is this woman believable? What does the jury think? Let's bring in our legal eagles now and have them weigh in. I'm so happy to have on the show this morning Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Good morning, gentlemen. David, let me start with you. Did Karina Cooper come off believable in your view?
Yeah, ultimate question for defense attorneys at trials: do you call their clients? Because what it does is it shifts really burdens. I mean, it doesn't shift the burden of beyond reasonable doubt, but now the jury can zero in on credibility on the particular defendant. And for her, I mean, the digital footprint says enough. And I really don't buy her explanations as to why she didn't tell the truth, if that's what happened initially. Also, the Snapchat and the steps on the phone completely obliterate her, in my opinion, because she actually says she woke up and just found him. But at the same time, you have those early morning texts with Danker about the shell casings. I don't believe her there either, where she says 100%, that she's going to get rid of those casings. And she's saying, oh, it was just in jest. And then the steps. I mean, she's got 170 steps 10 minutes before the 911 call. I think the digital evidence does not mesh with her testimony, and now her credibility is at issue, and I just don't see the jury believing her.
I'm with you, David. Joe Tamburino, your thoughts on how Ms. Cooper came off? Was she believable?
No, she was terrible. I mean, she completely was unbelievable. She should, and her attorneys should have taken a lesson from two recent trials where the defendants did not testify, P. Diddy and Karen Reed. And the reason why they didn't testify in those cases likely was because the attorneys knew that they wouldn't do well. They'd be, attacked. The cross-examination would be very tough. Their credibility would have been challenged. And that's exactly what happened here. I mean, there is no doubt about it. As David has pointed out, there's so much evidence against her that putting her up on the stand and going through the crying and saying, she really didn't mean those texts and everything like that, it didn't help at all. I think she would have a much better defense if she simply remained silent.
Excellent points, Joe. I'm with you, gentlemen. I think pants on fire, Karina Cooper. Let's talk a bit about the digital footprint that you both touched on here. So, on cross, we know that her Snapchat messages between her and her lover were questioned. And just an hour before Ryan Cooper was murdered, she sends a message saying, go. Now, the state alleges this was, her saying to her lover, go in, shoot. It was a cue, is what they're arguing. She's saying it was go to sleep, but just didn't get the to sleep part in there. A rebuttal witness says not possible. Take a look.
He responds, okay, babe, seriously putting the phone down. Have to get this done. I love you.
And what do you say to him?
I say go to sleep.
You can read what's in front of you.
This reads go.
So you say to him, go.
That's not what I said to him.
There's no messages directly following that.
So no messages that were deleted or disappeared at that time. Following that, it's just go as the last message at that time.
Correct.
So the expert says nothing else came in after the go. David Bruno, how bad is this?
Oh, it's horrible. Credibility, right? Because when we're assessing credibility of witnesses, we have to look to prior statements. We have to look to evidence corroborating or lack of corroboration. And this is the opposite of corroboration. This is not corroboration. This is, in fact, showing that scientifically, technologically, it doesn't make sense. And it'd be one thing for her to say, well, I meant go to sleep. But that wasn't her testimony. She said, no, I typed go to sleep. And it's not bearing out digitally. And it's just yet another piece of evidence that just contradicts her version of events, which goes against her credibility.
Yes, David, exactly. And if you look at the timestamp on it, it's in the middle of the night. So it's not even like, you know, and he's not her child. It's not like a parent and go to sleep, son. No. Joe Tamburino, your thoughts when you saw what the prosecutor did there to rebut this statement from the defendant?
He did a very good job. And this is one of those cases where it's fun to be a prosecutor because, you know, prosecutors don't get a lot of time cross-examining witnesses. They get plenty of time in direct examination, but not a lot in cross-exam. Cross-exam is mostly done by defense attorneys. Why? Because prosecutors always have a lot more witnesses than the defense. So therefore, defense, we get more time cross-examining witnesses. However, you get some of those rare occasions like this case where you get a defendant testifying and you get a lot of material to use against them. And that's what the prosecutor did here. And I think he did a very good job at it. And it's always good to box in a witness, to put their credibility against something that is scientifically provable. It's like saying, look, your DNA was found on the gun, and then the person says, no, I never touched the gun. Impossible. It's always good to box them in, and that's what happened here.
Oh, Joe, you're so right. Let's look at another clip from the cross. And this was a moment. I'm sure you both remember this. Let's take a look.
More than one occasion, you told Ryan Cooper that you hated him.
Yes.
In front of friends, you told Ryan Cooper that you'd shoot him in the face.
I deny ever saying that.
Was that when you were Karen, when you said, I'd shoot you in the face?
I never said that.
Karen did?
Karen did not say it either. It was not said.
Okay, David Bruno, thoughts on that? How's she looking there in your view?
Oh, it's like I said I hate him, but not that I would shoot him in the face, right? Again, it's going down to credibility. It is all about credibility. That question, when you are about to call a defendant, you got to realize that proof beyond a reasonable doubt, closing arguments is different than trying to protect your client's credibility. And once you do that, all eyes on the defendant, especially on credibility. And for these types of inconsistencies with credible evidence against, right? We talked about the scientific and the technological evidence. Now you have eyewitness testimony that can impeach her. And again, credibility is at issue, and she did not do well.
Right. You're exactly right. Ooh, we'll see what the jury thought of her, and we'll see what this SIR rebuttal is. I'm anxious to see what the defense is going to do this morning. Joe and David, I'm so happy you both are here. Every Friday morning, we love having you. We're going to hit a break. Still ahead here on Opening Statements. Here's what we've got.
We're still kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, but I can tell you what led us here today, and that's the evidence that Sarah killed her parents. Who knows what's going on in a young person's mind like that?
The Georgia teen arrested earlier this week for allegedly murdering her parents, making videos online right after their murders. And now TikTokers are calling her out. Was she trying to use social media to manipulate opinions about the case? We'll discuss. Plus, what's next in the search for accused daughter killer Travis Decker? A geographic profiler joins us live.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins this August on Court TV.
An arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
We continue tracking a trending story out of Georgia as a teenager is facing murder charges for allegedly killing her own mother and her stepfather. Police believe this girl, 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick, shot and killed the couple in their home back in February. That's according to investigators. They say that Patrick then turned herself in on Tuesday. This is almost 5 months after she was the one who placed the 911 call to report the killings. The bodies of James and Kristen Brock were found by the couple's 5-year-old daughter, who's Patrick's younger sister. Now, motive remains unclear. There are no signs of forced entry in the home. The facts of this case stunning, but outside of that, this teenage suspect made a few cryptic posts on her TikTok account right after the incident.
He doesn't know it, but a year from now, our family will be torn apart, and I will move far away and won't see or talk to him for 5 years. I'm feeling so tired.
All right, so now you can imagine TikTokers are calling her out because of those posts they saw, and now she's the one that law enforcement says is their suspect. So what was she trying to do with those videos? Was she trying to use them as manipulation? Was she trying to manipulate public opinion about the case? Let's bring in our experts. I want to welcome in parenting and family relationship expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth and criminology expert, author, and professor Dr. Debbie Goodman. Great to have you ladies here. Okay, was there some manipulation going on with this child in the court of public opinion? Dr. Sue, would you start us off with your thoughts, please?
Good morning, ladies. That is one opinion that you could make from seeing this. Perhaps, though, there's another scenario here. And I like to look at all sides. So one of the things that I see here is that this teen is severely mentally ill. That is my feeling just by looking at her face and into her eyes. And I think there has been some tremendous amount of abuse done to her that is going to come out that we are not aware of that happened within this family, because there's always something that happens to cause behavior like this. Was she trying to get sympathy? Perhaps she was. Perhaps she was trying to get her story out there before it happened in a way of a cry for help. I don't know, but that's what I think has happened here.
Dr. Sue, appreciate your insights. Dr. Debbie Goodman, of course we want yours. When I look at this child, you know, she's not an adult yet, she's close, but a teenage girl, if she did commit these crimes, this is really scary. And if she was trying to manipulate the public opinion, even scarier perhaps. Your thoughts, what do you see as a criminology expert when you look at these facts?
Good morning, thank you. My thinking first, Julie, is the categories of crime that this one circumstance falls into. First, we call it parricide, killing of parent. Then we have 2 other subdivisions, of course, patricide, killing of the father, the patriarch, matricide, killing of mother, the matriarch. So for this case, I'm going to create the theory, the fame game theory, and we'll use the acronym for FAME. the F for family. I think this young lady murdered her family to then garner the A for attention. M, she absolutely is and has been manipulating the media. And lastly, for the E, empathy. So it is a terrible crime. It really represents, it is rare in the homicide category because annually of all the homicides, parricide represents at or near 1%, but I do not feel sorry at all for this young lady, and it's devastating.
It sure is. Dr. Debbie, you know, I always appreciate the acronyms you'll give us from time to time to help us understand these cases. I took notes. Fame, family, attention, manipulation, and empathy. Dr. Sue, I want to go back to you as our psychology expert. Dovetailing off of what you just shared with us about there could have been abuse, in your view, that might have done something to this child's brain, triggering this. Hearing what Dr. Debbie just said, does this seem to fit with what you just said, if she is an abused child?
I think if she is an abused child, you know, her behavior did not come from nowhere. So some of what happened in this home caused her probably to do this, affected the way her brain works. Does that mean that she's innocent? Absolutely not, okay?
Right.
She killed her parents here. So I agree with Dr. Debbie on that. But what I'm saying is that there is something behind or some motive that happened here for this young girl to take the lives of her parent and her step-parent. We've looked at many, many cases on here, Julie, and I think that we can concur that as more information comes out, we see that there is trauma within these families that leads to a child to do these horrific behaviors.
You very well may be right. And for anybody tuning in, we don't have any confirmation that there was any kind of abuse. This is a theory that Dr. Sue has based on her experience as somebody who's a clinician and has many years, an author as well. And we don't know if she killed her parents. That's the allegation from police. I have to wonder, because, I mean, she turns herself in after this happens in February. I have to wonder if she was overlooked by police as a suspect. If they looked at these children, you know, she made the report, the younger child is there in the house. I wonder if, I mean, we look at her mugshot, you know, does she look like she's the kind of kid that commits homicides? Do we even know what anybody looks like who commits homicides? These days, you know, not everybody looks like Charles Manson, right? Okay, let's talk a little bit more about something else. So she had some more than just her own videos. Apparently, she was interacting as well with other true crime TikTokers. There are a lot of people who have interest in true crime, as we know. They have TikTok, YouTube channels. And so this kid was reaching out, apparently, to at least one other influencer that we know of. Let's take a look.
This is Sarah Grace, and she messaged me back on June 3rd and just said, search up Brock case. So I said, Brock Turner? Brock who? She said, Kristen and James Brock. Hold on. They're my parents, and out of nowhere, a random Thursday night in February, someone came in my house with me and my 5-year-old sister, and my parents left them for me and my little sister to wake up to. On Tuesday afternoon, Carroll County Sheriff's Office announced that they have arrested 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick. She is facing 2 murder charges and 2 aggravated assault charges. The girl that asked me to cover the case has been arrested.
Ooh, the girl that asked her to cover the case. So let's try to get inside the mind of Sarah Patrick. What was she thinking in reaching out to that influencer in the true crime space? Let's bring back in doctors Debbie Goodman and Sue Kornbluth. Dr. Debbie, let me go to you on this. What'd you think when you heard that?
That's startling, Julie. Again, we understand how and why social media is used, and in many instances for very good cause, for information, education, entertainment. However, I think we want to be mindful that we certainly don't want crimes and criminals to be glorified or glamorized on these platforms. And I do think that this defendant was reaching out for an attention grab to get the spotlight on her.
I do too. Dr. Sue, let me go back to you. Now, does this change anything? If Sarah Patrick is a trauma child, and we don't know if she is, what about this behavior, trying to get other people on board with her narrative?
It doesn't change my opinion that abuse probably took place here, but what it does do is say that she was probably extremely disturbed and maybe even psychotic, manipulative, has sociopathic tendencies, and was reaching out to get attention in the media, and saw perhaps before this on television, when someone murders someone, they get extreme attention put on them. But what this tells me from a psychological standpoint is this child was craving attention in all the wrong ways.
Well said. We'll keep following this case, going to cover it intensely next time she's in court. We have to say goodbye and a big thank you to you both for the great insight and analysis. Dr. Sue Kornbluth, Dr. Debbie Goodman, thank you much. Have a great weekend. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, we're talking about Travis Decker and the hunt for him still ongoing. He allegedly murdered his beautiful daughters, and we've got a geographic profiler with us to talk about what he thinks needs to be done in this manhunt.
When did they issue a warrant? So what happened is we have to take you to our warrant room for that information to get entered, and then after that gets entered, before we can take you to the jail, to the local jail. Okay, because I didn't know there was a warrant. How would I know that?
But she does know that she's got a motions hearing today in court. We're going to be covering it. Also, the state's released its potential witness list, and some of the names are going to sound familiar. We'll talk about who might tip the scales.
It's moments like these where we see our community coming together, paying respects to those young individuals that lost their lives. I want to pay respects to Peyton, Evelyn, Olivia. Your memory will never be forgotten, and we will not stop pursuing justice for you until those that were accountable for this are found.
This morning, we're turning our spotlight on the latest in the search for accused child killer Travis Decker, as we're giving a voice to the victims, his 3 beautiful little girls. So Decker has been on the run since June 2nd, when the bodies of his 3 young daughters, Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn, were found at a campground in central Washington state. Their mother reported them missing when Decker didn't return from a court-ordered visit with the girls. But now, authorities say that they've stopped searching for Decker in an Idaho forest after a recent tip turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. So now what? Where does the case go from here? How do we get justice for these victims? Let's bring in someone who's been following the case from the outset. He's a private investigator. Black Ops Private Investigations is his company. He's also a retired Army intelligence officer and member of the NYPD, Manuel Gomez. And also with us today, geographic profiler Douglas McGregor. Good morning to you both. And Douglas, I saw yesterday you were on X and your tweet caught my eye about this when you said a geographic profile needs to happen next for this guy. Tell us why.
Right now, we haven't, a lot of agencies, the agents working the case haven't been able to find Travis Decker, and I just think it needs to be taken back to ground zero. Right now, ground zero is that campsite, and we really need to go back to that campsite. But we also need to get a sense of who Travis Decker really is. And he's not just a man in his 30s that allegedly murdered his 3 children. He's ex-military. He's able to survive in the wilderness for long periods of time. He has mental health issues such as feelings of isolation, paranoia, borderline personality disorder, PTSD. And we need to take all these things into account when creating an efficient search strategy to find Travis Decker.
And for anybody who may have never heard you come on the program before, you've been with us a few times, Douglas, a geographic profile, basically, what exactly is this?
Sure. So there's two types of profiles I would create here for Travis Danker. One is a geographic profile for a search strategy, and the other is more long-term. So the long-term one takes into account his identity, Travis Danker, who he is, the people he knows, the places he's comfortable, and that could be across the entire country. It could be outside of the country, although it's unlikely that he'd be able to cross a border. And those are looking at personal relationships and how he interacts with those relationships, who he trusts, and also, just as important, who sympathizes with him in some way, or owes something to him, some reason they may help him. But the geographic profile for a search strategy, it doesn't really matter that it's Travis Danker per se, his name. It matters, like I mentioned before, who he is, his physical and personal characteristics, his mental health issues. These are all going to shape the way he moves within the wilderness. I've seen a lot of speculation, he's military, he'd be able to survive, but that's really at conflict with such issues as the borderline personality disorder and the PTSD. So it's really going to shape how he moves.
Okay, Douglas, thank you for that. Let's take a listen to some of what the Sheriff Mike Morrison with the Chelan County, Washington Sheriff's Department said. It was a message to Travis Danker, if he's listening and if he's paying attention to all the media reporting.
Travis, if you're listening, this is your opportunity to turn yourself in. Do the right thing, do what you need to do, and take accountability for your actions. We're not going to go away, we're not going to rest, and we're going to make sure we find you. You will be brought to justice.
All right, Manuel Gomez, we talked the other day on the program about how he probably is listening and trying to monitor what's happening. Share with us your thoughts today. Here we are, that tip turned out to be someone else, not him. What do you think needs to be done, Manuel, to capture this man?
I want to agree with Douglas. We have to go back to the beginning. We have to start where he was looking at. Remember, his vehicle was found roughly 26 miles away from the border of Canada on a trail that went straight into Canada that had 7 entrances. That's one. 2, he already looked up on the computer on how to assimilate and how to work in Canada. So you could see his intent was already to go there. 3, he had a 3-day head start. And I want to say, shame on Sheriff Morrison. You should never forget Paitlin and Olivia and Evelyn, because they did not put out that Amber Alert when that mother went in there. They told her it was a custodial interference case, and this sheriff should have these 3 girls haunt them for the rest of their lives because they dropped the ball, and so did the family court system, which needs to be revamped. And I hope at the end of this that when these girls get justice is when the Amber Alert system is revamped and changed.
Yes, Manuel, we've talked about this before, particularly the court system. For anybody who doesn't know, Travis Danker was sadly experiencing homelessness at the time that he had this visit with his girls. So he didn't have a home base, apparently, but was still given these visits by the court where he could take the girls. To me, that is appalling. That is absolutely appalling. Until there's a firm, safe residence where everything can be verified that these children are going to be okay, they shouldn't be going with him unsupervised. It'd be one thing if he wants to visit some place that, a public meeting place, and maybe mom's there too, or maybe someone from the court system supervises until he gets out of the homelessness situation. Manuel, you've seen other cases like this. In terms of the danger in the head start, how do you think this played in? If this guy did intend to murder his children, if this was pre-planned and all of that, how do you think that the court system may be to blame here for allowing those visits to continue?
Remember, Julie, you just nailed it right on the head. It's not just this case. This is a national problem. Like Montrell Williams, Phoebe Johnchek, Aiden Moreno, all these families, all these children have died because these mothers have went to court and said, listen, they shouldn't be with the dad. And the courts keep dropping the ball nationwide. Julie, right now, over 600,000 people go missing a year. 600,000, and the majority of them are children, Julie. And what happens? Nothing. We haven't changed anything. Please let not these daughters be in vain, their death. Let it change the system. But I believe Travis Danker is in Canada. Like I told you before 2 months ago, he is trained. He is trained to survive, escape, and evade. He is most likely in Canada. Why hasn't the sheriff reached out to Canadian forces? Why haven't they done a joint effort with them? Nothing on the news have said that or indicated that. Not one bit.
Yeah, you're right, Manuel. It makes you wonder if they're just not saying it because they want to keep their cards close to the vest. I hope that's the case, but who knows? I do know this excellent insight you both have shared this morning. Manuel Gomez, Douglas McGregor, thank you so much for the insight on this case. And as we head to our break this morning, we want to take some time to remember those beautiful victims. 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia. Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia were wearing dresses, they were dancing, they were playing soccer. 3 beautiful little girls with so much zest for life. They were taken far too soon. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who loved these beauties so much. We'll be right back.
Friday night, the WNBA is on Ion. The Dream aimed to be a nightmare for the Fever. Then the Sun tried to outshine the Storm. Oh, like that! Coverage begins tonight at 7. Find Ion wherever you watch. Ion, it's on.
Next week on Opening Statements.
Did 2 parents try to kill their own daughter? We're previewing each day's proceedings in the attempted honor killing trial.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Maybe a little hard to make out exactly what she's saying, but this is just released video of Mama Donna Adelson right after being arrested last November, charged in connection with the murder of her daughter's ex-husband, law professor Danny Markell. You can see she's in the back of a paddy wagon with deputies as they head for the Leon County, Florida jail. Her hands are shaking, she's mumbling, and officers are giving her water. They also had her checked out at the hospital. But take a listen to what the deputy said on the radio.
We're finna get out of here. We got Dade County. The mother, Adelson. The last piece of the puzzle.
Oh, they for the mama?
Yes. She's coming back with us.
Donna Adelson is due in court this afternoon for a motions hearing ahead of her murder trial next month. And we're getting some new information about the state's witness list that we want to share with you. So court records revealing that her children, Wendy, Charlie, and Rob, who we haven't seen yet, but there is another Adelson child, Rob, adult child that is, they all 3 could possibly be called in this homicide trial. So how might they help tip the scales? What's going to happen if the state of Florida calls any of them or all of them? Let's bring in our legal eagles and talk about this. Criminal defense attorneys and former prosecutors Joe Tamburino and David Bruno on the show. Joe, I'll start with you here, please. Your thoughts on the Adelson kids being called to testify?
Well, first, I want to know what kind of a genetic pool do all of these people come from? I mean, because this is some type of family here, people being charged, Charles being convicted. But one of the things that I would wonder about is Wendy Adelson. If she's going to be a witness, is she going to have an attorney? Is she going to have any problems testifying because might she incriminate herself? Everybody has always wondered what type of information she has, what type of involvement she may have had. I mean, she's at the center of this because, you know, her ex is the person who was murdered and there's kids involved. So that would be one of the biggest issues for me. How are they going to handle Wendy?
Right, Joe. Yeah, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. I have to tell you, I thought she was going to be charged long ago. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're hoping for some testimony to come out in this case that might implicate her. David Bruno, how about that? Do you think this trial could result in charges for Wendy?
Well, how about the audio from the officer on the transport? This is the last puzzle piece, meaning Donna. And that just leaves that open question about Wendy. I mean, Wendy had the most to gain from this murder for hire. Obviously, the children were in dispute. They were arguing over relocation. It is so interesting to me that that is still an open question in a second trial that we're going after right here. This is, they're in court today. Hopefully we'll get a decision on the change of venue, which is still pending. And there's also another issue coming up about whether or not Wendy knew about the gang affiliation of the hitmen and whether or not that was the motive for her to flee, to act, and also pay the intermediary. And a prior court ruling has prohibited that affiliation in this particular case. And now Donna and her team is trying to resurrect that to put into the picture as to why she would have paid the intermediary through the dental practice. So that's going to be another issue today.
Right. So we have Catherine McBanawa, the intermediary. She's on the list. She was Charlie's girlfriend for a while. And the Latin Kings gang members, Luis Rivera, and Sigfredo Garcia. And so Luis Rivera is the name you're talking about, David. I'm so glad you brought that up because this is going to be resurrected today, this issue you just hit on, and whether his affiliation with the Latin Kings can come in. There's another motion today. It's going to deal with some discovery requests by Donna Adelson's new defense team. They're claiming the state has not provided them with the raw, unredacted data from her cell phone when she was arrested in November of 2023. And the state says that a court order is necessary for them to release it. What? Okay. Actually, I would love your reactions on that. Joe, what do you think about that? Does that sound right?
It doesn't sound right. I mean, everyone knows this. If the government, whether it's the federal government or the state, has evidence in any type of a criminal case, and the defendant says, hey, I want that evidence, the defendant gets the evidence. In fact, if you, as a prosecutor, don't give them the evidence, you're committing what's called a Brady violation, meaning that you have an affirmative duty that even if the defense doesn't ask for it, you still got to give it to them. And I fail to understand, in today's world, we see this happening again and again and again. Prosecutors should just simply give up the evidence. I don't know why we have to keep coming back to these basically like motion to compel discovery, but it continues to happen.
Yeah, it's terrible, Joe. Thank you for the insight on that. David Bruno, last word to you. What do you think about the idea of Charlie possibly being a witness against his mother?
Right, so that comes from the state's witness list. And the reason that's important is because that's what the jury, the judge takes and gives the list to the prospective jury when they come in to identify any conflicts or biases or awareness of the case. So just because Charlie's on the list doesn't mean the state's going to actually call him. So I wonder to what end they're going to go in that direction, because literally they have the financial records against Donna, they have the wire, they have that bump operation. If anybody hasn't heard about that, that's the FBI investigation where they gave her a note saying the hitmen want additional money, and she acts totally normal, calls Charlie immediately thereafter, and then has a face-to-face with Charlie. And that's going to be critical on the issue of affiliation, too, as to whether or not she was aware and fear of the affiliations.
Yeah, sure is. David, thank you for that. I have to tell you, I feel sorry for the other child, Rob. I feel bad for him. He's distanced himself from all of them. Poor guy.